You're listening to the Weekend Sport Podcast with Jason Pine from Newstalk ZB.
As mentioned, across the weekend, we're having a good hard look at the abuse of rugby referees. This off the back of World Rugby's rather startling findings about the levels and volume of abuse directed at players and officials at the Rugby World Cup last year, and the release this week of the Whistleblowers documentary, which gives us a pretty stark insight into the effect this abuse has on the men and women in charge of controlling the game. As mentioned, World Rugby CEO Alan Gilpin is going to join the show tomorrow. But today, let's get you straight into the middle with our top rugby referee, Ben O'Keefe. Thanks for being with us, Ben. Before we look back to last year, you're preparing to officiate a Six Nations clash this weekend. Wales v Scotland and Cardiff tomorrow morning. So straight into it for 2024. What are Six Nations matches like to referee?
Hey, Piney, we're straight back into it. And like for us, it's been a really good break in the Southern Hemisphere with no rugby. So we get pretty excited to go up north and to referee a Six Nations game. To be fair, I reckon it's one of the best competitions in the world internationally, because the support that you get in these big games, in these big countries, are just immense. Because you get the travelling supporters, they take a 3-hour flight, a 1-hour flight to get to Rome, or, my weekend where I'm going to have Wales versus Scotland, you get a lot of the Scottish fans come down and they pack out Principality Stadium too. So the atmosphere before the game and during the game is pretty cool, and they're always close games, and especially an exciting time of the season being another we're starting another 4-year cycle, so it's going to be really interesting to see how these teams front up.
What are the major differences in refereeing two Northern Hemisphere sides compared to refereeing, say, two Southern Hemisphere sides?
I think the perceived differences that we think of when we think of a Southern Hemisphere game versus a Northern Hemisphere game or teams getting closer. Those big differences in terms of the style of play, the conditions that you're faced with. I think they're all quite similar now. So a lot of teams can move the ball. A lot of teams love to maul. A lot of teams love to use a scrum as well to win points. So, as we saw the last World Cup, we've got about 7 or 8 teams that are very good and at the same level, and often playing the same type of style. So when I go up there now, especially with some of the law innovations that we brought into World Rugby from Super Rugby, I see the game's actually being quite similar. So I enjoy that. I'm sure I'm going to be faced with a lot of 5-metre scrums. I'm sure I'm going to be faced with a lot of tries and a lot of speed in the game too. So I think it's going to be exciting. I just don't know if the roof's going to be closed at Principality yet or not. So that will determine how fast the game is, I think. Of course.
And so the whistle for the first one, and then assistant referee the following weekend. Do you enjoy assistant refereeing as much as you do being on the whistle?
I enjoy being in the middle. I think when you're in the middle, when you're refereeing, you're the leader of the group. You're making the decisions, and it's up to you actually to lead your team well. I also enjoy the weekends where I'm supporting my mates and all the referees. We're all very close, and I enjoy making sure that the game needs to be refereed well by the 4 people that are on the field and the TMO as well. So I've got a big part to play. You got to change your perspective on how you see the game if you're on the sideline with the flag. But if you ask me, if I had a choice of what to do, I'd definitely, be in the middle in the cauldron with the whistle and, trying to add value to the game.
Fair enough. Massive year for you in 2023, of course, including the Rugby World Cup with a few months hindsight, and a bit of time to think about it. How do you reflect back on the Rugby World Cup?
Yeah, it was an amazing season. We build up to it takes every 4 years. I'm about to start another 4-year cycle to get to 2027. And 2023, France was a massive goal for me. To be able to get there and to experience it was incredible. And to have the challenges that I was faced with, the games that I was appointed to, being a 3-pool games, then a quarterfinal, then a semi-final, both 1-point games, was incredibly massive for me in terms of my learning, the experience I took out of it. And it excited me. And it was interesting because, they were massive points in my career. And I realised, I thought leading into the tournament, I've learned everything I need to know about refereeing. I'm at the top of my game. I realised after those games that, you can keep learning. There's another mountain to climb in terms of what I can offer to the game. So it took a few weeks to actually, get back home, to reflect and to actually realise that I needed a good break. Yeah, I think it takes a big, not just physical, but mental toll. So, I had a really good summer off, a really good break. I needed it, and excited now to get back into rugby and to put my best foot forward.
You talked about some of those development areas and I guess growth areas as a referee. Specifically, anything specific that you'll look ahead in 2024 and say, okay, I want to get better at that, or I want to do this slightly differently?
Yeah, I'm continually trying to improve my game as the game changes, but also, as I grow as a referee. And I think, the world is asking for us to obviously be very strict on player safety. And I think we've done that over a few years, but I think what everyone's crying out for is to increase and enhance the spectacle of the game. Rugby union, I'm very biased, of course, but I believe is the best sport in the world. But I think it's falling behind some of probably the other sports we have out there because of some perceived problems around probably flow of the game and speed of the game. So for me, that was a big take from the World Cup. I think one goal and one focus of mine is to try and stay accurate within the game, but increase the flow and the spectacle so that people can say that, look, this referee or Ben O'Keefe, when he refereed, he added value because I really enjoyed that game. So that's a big part of it, and I look forward to trying to improve on that over the next wee while.
In some ways, though, are you almost bound by the laws of the game? I mean, you can't just go your own way and just sort of, whistle things that suit you. You still have to referee within the laws of the game, right? But within that framework, you still believe that there's an opportunity for officials to improve the spectacle of rugby?
I think so. There's certain parts of the game that we definitely can control. For example, how many resets we have at a scrum before we make a decision, how quickly we ask the teams to set the set piece or the line out to the maul. Again, how strict we are on the shot clock, the decisions that we make in terms of playing advantage or skipping a straight penalty. So there's some small stuff that we can do for the game, but you're right, Piney. Overall, we just implement what the rugby makers at World Rugby and Super Rugby ask us to do. And I think what we're seeing is that they are open to understanding more about, okay, we need to try and make this game enjoyable for the players that are involved. We want to showcase their skills, their talents, but also we want people watching and sitting in their seats or in the stadiums and really enjoying what's going on in front of them.
After their quarter-final loss, French captain Antoine Dupont was fairly outspoken afterwards in some of his comments directed at you. How did you handle that?
I sort of took it on the chin, really, didn't I? I understood the situation, the environment. The host nation, a team that was up there, either one or two in the world, expected to win, expected to make it to the final, lost a 1-point quarter-final. And the game of rugby definitely is grey in terms of some of the decisions that you make. We're never perfect as referees. So leading into that game, I knew that there was going to be pressure. I knew that depending on how either team lost, there's going to be a focus for spotlight on the refereeing team, and because I was in the middle myself. So look, I just had to take that and really review my game properly and try and take those learnings and the perceived issues that potentially he had with the game. But a lot of it was emotional. I understand. They had a big focus on trying to go really deep into that tournament, and it would have been heart-wrenching to be able to lose in those circumstances by 1 point. And that's the role of a referee. We're never going to be congratulated after the game if that's our expectation as a referee. And I think we're in the wrong business. So I took a lot out of in terms of how I normally review my game. Obviously, there was a lot of further continued criticism. You get someone that's respected so much like Antoine Dupont is. The whole country sort of follows his lead, and that's what a great leader is, obviously. So I just had to understand that what the environment was, what the situation was, and it was a little bit uncomfortable the next sort of 2 weeks in France and Paris, being in public and that, but it was an experience that has made me stronger as a referee and has allowed me to go to another level in terms of what I want to add to the game and still be a part of the game.
But isn't another quality of a great leader the ability to speak with a cool head even after a disappointing loss? I think most of us, and you and I have talked about this at length, expect that keyboard warriors, anonymous people, will get online and say things. But to have to deal with it post-match from captains and coaches, surely that's a responsibility that the captains and the coaches have to take a bit more seriously.
Look, I think if we look at the key stakeholders in a game, players are one, coaches are one, spectators and referees, and I think we all need to be working together as a team if we want to grow the sport, the game that we love. So I do believe that we should all be working together, and I know that over the last few years we have been more in unison with coaches, players, and referees. And I think depending on the emotions in any game, you might get a situation like that. So I think times will change. We'll both sides will look back at that experience and know that we can do things differently. And I hope that next time I referee France in the future, whether it's away or at home, then we can just get back to enjoying the spectacle that we're going to be a part of.
Just on the anonymous keyboard warriors, I was going to call them fans, but I don't think that's the right word. The abuse that you receive. I saw a number of social media posts that you put up showing some of the content that was sent your way. I think you had a company filtering it for you. This doesn't seem to have improved, Ben. How do you continue to deal with it?
Well, I mean, I think it was so it was such an amount of abuse after the game that it made it a little bit easier, because you could say that the emotion was so high, especially when it's a country that's doing it rather than just a group of team supporters. And I think with keyboard warriors, we're living in a time, unfortunately, now where it is prevalent, it's happening. That's why I asked a company, Red Labs, to actually help me do that. And it's amazing, actually. It did help me, because I had to then get up to one of my biggest games ever, which was semi-final next week, going through all the mental side of having to deal with all the abuse as well. So actually, a little bit of ignorance was bliss that week. So I really thank the company for how they did that. But it was interesting because I think I can deal with the keyboard warrior as well. You've done it before. It's the time that we live in at the moment, but when you sort of extend it into the public light and being out in public and sort of people are saying things to you, looking at you, video recording you. That was the uncomfort I found over the next few weeks in Paris. It was actually quite nice to get home for a bit and get back to a little bit of, I guess, normality. But that's the situation we live in, and I've got to accept that. When you do a quarterfinal of a World Cup, when you do a semi-final of a World Cup, and you're the man in the middle, you do get that responsibility. That side of things come with it.
And the positives of the role presumably still outweigh the negative stuff for you?
I think so. I think I accept the negative side. It's part of the role that we do. I still really get up for games. I get excited by the challenge. I get excited about adding value to the game and actually seeing, I feel like I can really do that, and I strive to always be better myself so that I can add value to what the players are trying to achieve. And while there are negatives, I see a lot of positives. And we've seen a lot of changes in terms of what referees are doing post World Cup. People are staying on, people are leaving, and it's one thing. We've got a really tight knit group. There's one thing going forward is we just got to stay tighter and actually keep working together to try and become more of a team. Like, I think we've gone from the days where we've just gone out in the middle and referee as an individual. We have to stick together as a team now. As I said, for all the stakeholders that are involved in the match, and that's what I find enjoyable and I find passionate, and I'm really excited because Super Rugby was amazing last year. I'm looking forward to getting into that this year again with the innovations. And over the next 4 years, we start another cycle to try and be selected to get to the 2027 World Cup and take those learnings from the last and put them onto the field.
Well, the last 4-year cycle ended with you named New Zealand Rugby Referee of the Year for the 4th time at the New Zealand Rugby Awards just before Christmas. I know you don't do it for this reason, but how special are accolades like that to you?
I guess, they're not massive for me. I guess it's like another perspective of someone saying, you're on the right track, and I do take a lot out of that. I think the reason that I'm sort of getting those awards is, we've got a great group of referees that are supporting me. We've got I think we're moving into a cycle in New Zealand where we're going to have the best group of referees in the world probably for the next sort of 10 years. I've noticed over the last probably 2 decades that, South Africa will be really strong in terms of referees for a few years, and then the French referees will be. I think we're moving into a space of that in the men's and women's game by 15s and 7s, and that makes me excited, and I have a responsibility to try and bring everyone along with me, but also I'm getting pushed from behind as well from all my colleagues. And for example, Angus maybe he'll debut in Six Nations on the sideline for me. We've got 4 or 5 referees going up north to be able to do that, and it's something I can be excited about because it puts us in a good space, and then will lead into I feel New Zealand players getting better, the All Blacks improving. When all of rugby is sort of at the top level.
Just to finish, whose opinion of you matters the most to you?
Probably myself. Like I'm very particular in terms of how I review a game. I'll have a sounding board with my coach and my colleagues. and obviously, friends and family, my partner and family, they are all the key stakeholders that I have that, if they're telling me that was a good decision or that they enjoyed that game or, could you have been better in this instance, then, that's the stuff that I listen to. And because really for me, they're the people that have my best interest at heart, but are also wanting me to be better too. So I'll try and review the game as well as I can, but I don't. I'm not blinded to the fact that I need to get some outside perspective. And I think some of the coaches that I have been really helpful, and obviously, friends and family help that too.
Well, start of a busy year for you. Wales, Scotland in Cardiff. Sounds like it's going to be a wonderful occasion at the start of what is an exciting year. Ben, thanks for taking so much time with us, having a chat. Congrats on everything you achieved in 2023. Can't wait to see what the year ahead holds for you.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. I look forward to it too. And thanks for having me on the show.
No, good to have you with us, Ben. Thanks indeed. Ben O'Keefe there.
For more from Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, listen live to Newstalk ZB weekends from midday or follow the podcast on iHeartRadio.